You were kind. You were patient. You gave people the benefit of the doubt, and what did it get you? Disappointment, dismissal, betrayal. You learned to bite your tongue, to smooth over conflict, to be agreeable. Because that's what good people do. That's what they told you wins respect, wins trust, wins love. But somewhere along the line, the pattern revealed itself. People didn't love you more for your kindness. They respected you less. They began to take liberties. They tested your patience, your boundaries, your silence, and the more you smiled through it, the more invisible you became. Not because you lacked value, but because you failed to signal power. You thought love would protect you, but love is fragile, it's conditional, it's soft, and it shatters the moment things get hard. What if everything you were taught about kindness, about leadership, about morality was a lie? Not a malicious lie, but a convenient one. A lie designed to keep you safe, compliant, unthreatening. Because here's the truth, no one wants to say out loud, people do not follow kindness, they follow authority, they follow power, and when love fails, fear remains. Not fear that hurts, not fear that oppresses, but fear that protects, that commands respect without saying a word. The kind of fear that says, do not cross this line. Because when that line is visible, people behave differently. They think twice. They respect your time, your words, your presence. Machiavelli understood this long before modern psychology caught up. He said, "It is better to be feared than loved if you cannot be both." And most people can't be both. Most people who try to be loved by everyone end up controlled by everyone, because love makes you predictable. Fear makes you sovereign. But don't misunderstand, this isn't about cruelty. This is about control. It's about not letting your humanity be used against you, because people will test you, not always consciously, but instinctively. And if you're always offering peace, always smoothing the edges, you'll become what Machiavelli warned against. Easy to forget, easy to replace, easy to discard. So what does this mean for you? It means that the next time someone crosses a boundary and expects your silence, you show them your teeth, calmly, quietly, but unmistakably. Because fear doesn't require volume, just clarity. But why is it that the good are so easily taken advantage of? Why does society punish softness, even as it pretends to celebrate it? The answer is darker than you think, and more personal than you've been told. Think back to your own experience, the kind, dependable coworker who always picks up the slack, the generous friend who never asks for anything in return, the partner who bends over backwards to make everyone else happy. Where do they end up? Overworked, undervalued, overlooked. Why? Because when kindness isn't paired with authority, it stops looking like virtue and starts looking like submission. Human beings are not as noble as they pretend to be. We test each other constantly, not always with words, but with behavior, subtle things, a delayed response to a message, a sarcastic joke to see if you'll react, a favor asked one too many times. We push each other not out of malice, but out of instinct to determine who we can control and who we can't. This is social predation, and it's more common than you think. People don't usually intend to exploit the kind-hearted. But kindness, when it's endless and unguarded, becomes a signal that says, you don't have to try as hard with me. I'll forgive you. I'll understand. I'll stay. And slowly you become the one they rely on, not because they admire you, but because they know you won't leave. You won't fight back. You won't stop them. The overly helpful guy in the group project, he gets stuck doing all the work. The boss who's always nice and avoids confrontation, their team loses respect fast. The friend who says yes to everything. Eventually, they disappear into the background. The irony is painful. The more you give, the less they value what you gave. But it goes deeper. Human psychology is wired to notice confidence and dominance. Even if we don't like it, we respect it. People pay more attention to those who take up space, who draw lines in the sand. When you always offer softness, you teach people not to fear losing you. And when there's no fear of loss, there is no value. Here's the uncomfortable truth. If you're always trying to be loved, you'll never be respected. And without respect, love doesn't last. Because the same people who benefit from your gentleness will eventually be drawn to someone who challenges them, who leads them, who refuses to be walked over. This doesn't mean you should be cruel, but it does mean you need to become unpredictable, to stop broadcasting endless patience and start showing that you know exactly what you're worth. So what does that kind of power look like? The kind that doesn't hurt, but shields. The kind that doesn't need to raise its voice, yet changes the entire atmosphere of a room. Most people mistake it for arrogance, but those who understand it recognize it for what it truly is: strategic fear. Not all fear is toxic. Not all fear leads to cruelty or hate. There is a kind of fear that does not wound, but guards. It's the invisible shield that surrounds people who never have to repeat themselves. It's the aura that stops others from crossing a line, not because there's yelling or aggression, but because something in your presence says, "Think twice." This is the fear Machiavelli spoke of, not the chaotic fear of tyrants, but the calculated fear of someone who knows the weight of authority. He understood that human beings respond more immediately, more permanently to fear than to love. He wrote, "It is much safer to be feared than loved when of the two, either must be dispensed with." Think about it. Love is fragile. It changes. It depends on moods, on memories, on how useful you are in the moment. But fear writes itself deeper. It carves into the mind like a warning etched into stone. It doesn't require constant reassurance. It only needs to be established once, precisely and without hesitation. Have you ever walked into a room and instantly felt the presence of someone you wouldn't dare disrespect? They didn't say a word, but something about the way they held themselves made you pause. That is power, not loud, not dramatic, just real. That's because fear, unlike love, anchors itself to our survival instincts. It bypasses reasoning. It triggers caution, and caution creates space, the space where respect grows. It's not about being feared for your cruelty. It's about being feared for your standards, for your self-control, for your unreadable limits. Here's where it gets interesting. The most powerful people aren't the loudest. They're the ones whose unpredictability makes others second guess. Because when someone can't figure you out, they proceed with care. This is the essence of Machiavellian fear. It doesn't scream. It whispers just loud enough to be remembered. But listen carefully. This kind of fear cannot be faked. If it comes from insecurity, it collapses. If it's based on rage, it backfires. True protective fear arises from deep clarity, from knowing your boundaries so clearly that others feel them before you speak. And here's the paradox that most never realize. The same people who fear you, when you wield that fear with fairness, will also admire you. They won't love you the way they love someone who gives them everything. They'll love you in a different way, the way we love a mountain, from a distance, with awe. But society doesn't want you to understand this. It wants you to be agreeable, visible, harmless. So ask yourself, why does modern culture pretend to despise power games while secretly rewarding those who play them best? The answer reveals everything. Look around you. We are surrounded by a culture that claims to celebrate kindness, humility, and vulnerability. It tells you that goodness wins, that being agreeable and empathetic is the highest form of leadership. But beneath the surface, something much darker is happening, something most people feel but cannot name. In reality, society does not reward kindness. It rewards effectiveness. It rewards those who can shape perception, command attention, and move others without asking for permission. The people who rise highest are rarely the ones who are simply good. They are the ones who understand the silent power games everyone else is too naive to see. Watch closely the ones who claim to be virtuous in public. Corporate CEOs preaching about compassion while laying off thousands with a smile. Politicians promising unity while sowing division with precision. Influencers building images of authenticity while calculating every post to maximize engagement. They aren't breaking the rules. They are playing the real game, the one that runs underneath the official narrative. Modern society doesn't eliminate Machiavellian strategies. It hides them behind a mask. It teaches you to speak the language of kindness while mastering the mechanics of control. And those who are most skilled at this doublespeak rise fastest, win the trust of the masses, and consolidate silent authority. But here's the tragedy. Most people never realize it. They stay on the surface, believing in the illusion, getting outmaneuvered by those who understood the rules from the beginning. They chase approval, thinking it will protect them. They seek love, thinking it will guarantee loyalty. They believe in fairness, not realizing that the game rewards not fairness, but strategic competence. Ask yourself honestly, are you playing the game, or are you being played by those who understand it better than you? You dare to ask that question because the answer is uncomfortable. It forces you to see the world not as it should be, but as it is. And once you see it, you cannot unsee it. You will start noticing the quiet dominance in boardrooms, the subtle power moves in friendships, the hidden hierarchies even in so-called equal communities. You will start realizing that the world was never divided into good people and bad people. It was divided into players and pawns. But if this realization shakes you, hold on, because the next step is even more dangerous. Once you understand the game, you must learn how to move within it without losing yourself. And it begins with mastering the one thing most people are terrified to use: strategic silence. There is a reason the most powerful figures in history rarely spoke more than necessary. Not because they lacked the words, but because they understood the weight of withholding them. Silence, in a world addicted to noise, is power. In every interaction, people are trying to read you. They search your face, your words, your emotions, hoping to map your weaknesses. They want to know where you stand, what you fear, what you crave, because the more they know, the more they can control. But when you become unreadable, when you offer no easy signals to decode, you disrupt the entire system of manipulation. Strategic silence is not passive, it is an active weapon. When you speak less, others speak more. When you reveal little, others reveal too much. They fill the void with their assumptions, their fears, their desires, and you learn everything you need to know without lifting a finger. But it gets deeper. Psychological research shows that ambiguity creates tension in the human mind. People crave closure. They hate not knowing where they stand. Silence builds that tension, making you an object of fascination and caution at the same time. If you realize this, the more predictable you are, the easier you are to eliminate. Predictability breeds contempt. Mystery breeds respect. Think back to the moments you truly respected someone. Was it because they explained themselves endlessly, or was it because they carried a gravity you couldn't quite define? In the battlefield of influence, clarity about your goals is essential, but clarity about your emotions, your fears, your vulnerabilities, that is a luxury you cannot afford to give away. And here's the chilling truth. The more people know about you, the easier it becomes for them to destroy you. The modern world, with its cult of oversharing, seduces you into giving away all your power voluntarily. They tell you that being transparent is being brave. But in reality, it is often just being vulnerable to unseen predators. Guard your silence. Let your moves be seen, but not your thoughts. Let your ambition be felt, but not fully understood. Let your allies wonder if they truly know you. The less they are sure of you, the less they can move against you. But silence alone is not enough. If you wish to truly rise, you must also learn to bear the hidden cost of power, a cost few are willing to pay. Because real authority does not just separate you from your enemies, it separates you from almost everyone. And what that cost feels like, few dare to imagine. Every time you rise above the crowd, something else falls away. Comfort, closeness, certainty. The paradox of real leadership is that the higher you climb, the fewer people stand beside you. Not because you're unworthy of connection, but because power, by its very nature, isolates. You cannot be both the watchtower and the gathering below. Most people seek warmth. The leader must often walk into the cold. While others look for someone to tell them what to do, the leader must choose without affirmation, decide without applause, and bear the weight of consequences alone. It's not just strategy, it's solitude. Machiavelli understood this with disturbing clarity. In The Prince, he wrote that cruelty, when well used, is not a flaw, it's a necessity. Not cruelty for the sake of harm, but calculated firmness to maintain order when chaos begins to claw at the gates. Because the world does not respect indecision. It waits for you to flinch. And when you don't, when you do what others fear, they follow. Sometimes in silence, sometimes in hate, but they follow. This is the hidden law. The one who dares to protect the system must often stand outside of it. Imagine the battlefield commander whose orders will save hundreds but cost a few. Imagine the CEO who must fire someone to preserve the company. Imagine the parent who says no while the child cries. These are not acts of cruelty. These are the scars of responsibility. But it gets even darker. Leadership often requires you to become the villain in someone else's story, even when you were the only one trying to do what was right. And if you need their understanding to move forward, you will paralyze yourself forever. Because the price of being understood is usually the price of being effective. So you must choose. Do you want to be embraced by everyone, or do you want to shape the direction they're too afraid to walk? Real leadership is not about admiration. It's about anchoring the structure while others shake. And it is lonely, not because no one cares about you, but because no one else can bear the weight. But in this isolation, there is also clarity. You see further because you're not drowning in noise. You act faster because you're not waiting for permission. And while others are tangled in emotional politics, you move like a shadow through the system, not cold, but controlled. Still, leadership isn't just about holding power. It's about knowing when to use it and when to hold it back like a sword still in its sheath. And that subtle control, that restraint, brings us to a form of influence most never even consider. A form so precise, it turns kindness into a weapon. If power is built on perception, then words are your sharpest tools. And the most dangerous among them is praise. Not because it flatters, but because it conditions. It softens the mind, lowers the guard, and creates a craving for more. And what's craved can be controlled. Most people use praise like perfume, spraying it everywhere, hoping it makes them likable. But the Machiavellian mind does not seek to be liked. It seeks to be remembered. And that means understanding when to speak and when silence will strike deeper. When praise is constant, it becomes meaningless. But when it's rare, when it appears like lightning in the dark, it electrifies everything it touches. A single compliment from the quiet, composed figure in the room means more than 100 empty affirmations from those who always speak. This is the power of emotional scarcity. People chase what they cannot predict. They obsess over the approval they cannot guarantee. They will work harder, think deeper, and question themselves longer when your validation is withheld, not out of cruelty, but out of precision. Because timing is everything. Praise someone at the moment they expect it, and you blend into the background. But withhold it just long enough, then deliver it when their defenses are down, and they'll never forget it. That's how admiration is branded into memory, not with volume, but with surprise. It's what we call the pendulum method. Push away just enough to create doubt, then pull back with just enough warmth to create loyalty. That rhythm, the unpredictability of favor, makes people orbit you. They search for meaning in your silence and cling to the moments you choose to speak. But here's the most brutal truth. If your kindness isn't strategic, it will be used against you. If your generosity is endless, it will be expected and then discarded when it no longer serves someone's needs. The praise that isn't earned teaches nothing. The praise that is rare becomes gospel. This doesn't mean you must be cold. It means your warmth must have weight. Every word should be chosen with the awareness that it shapes perception, and perception, once shaped, defines action. So learn to speak with power, to reward with precision, and to never give anything, not even a smile, without understanding what it signals. But even the sharpest words can only do so much, because at the heart of all influence is one brutal truth, one final law that cannot be escaped. Not by charm, not by strategy, not even by strength. Power is not a throne you sit on, it is a mask you wear, and every day the world looks for cracks. The final law is this: power is not real, it is a perception, a collective agreement, a shared illusion that only persists as long as others believe in it. The moment they stop, the illusion shatters, and with it, your control. That's what makes power so fragile and so dangerous. You might think strength comes from titles, money, status, but people don't follow those things. Not really. They follow presence. They follow emotional gravity. They follow the one who, for reasons they can't explain, feels untouchable. But that sensation must be reinforced constantly. It's not enough to have been powerful yesterday. The illusion must be tended like a flame. One moment of weakness, one slip in tone, one apology made too quickly, one exposure of doubt, and they begin to question. And when people begin to question your authority, they don't stop. They push, they test, they talk. And worst of all, they remember. Because fear, once lost, is impossible to rebuild the same way. It decays faster than it was built. Love may forgive you, but power never does. So you must decide, do you want peace or do you want influence? Because you can't have both. Peace requires compromise, softness, transparency. Influence demands clarity, presence, and mystery. Peace is for equals. Influence is for those who intend to shape the game. Here's what no one tells you. To be followed, you must be slightly feared, not hated, not cruel, just feared enough that people hesitate before disappointing you, enough that your silence matters, enough that your presence shifts the air. And here is your final warning. When the illusion of your power begins to slip, it doesn't fall slowly, it collapses. People turn quickly. Jokes get made, eyes stop watching, and the same people who once admired you begin to whisper the one thing that undoes everything. They're just like everyone else. That's when the mask is broken, and once it's broken, it cannot be repaired. So wear it well, feed it daily, tend the fire, because perception is your crown, and if you want to rule anything in this world, you must learn how to manage it like fire. With distance, with discipline, and with just enough heat to keep everyone warm, but never comfortable. Now tell me, have you ever paid the price for being too kind, too soft, too open? What changed the moment you stopped chasing approval? Someone else might need to hear it today. Leave it below. If this message hits something deep inside you, do not let it stop here. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, and join a community that does not fear the truth. If you are ready to keep sharpening your mind, the next video is waiting for you. Watch it now, and keep stepping further away from illusion and closer to mastery.